What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the Eurostep Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming back to you after all the cut down news, all the practice squad signing news, and now we're getting to predictions for the 2023 season. But joining me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Jordan Tusky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Happy Labor Day to put the timestamp of when we are recording this podcast.
That's the quintessential thing to do in podcasts. Date your work.
Yeah, day you work, immediately it is old.
Exactly. But as we've mentioned, last Tuesday, the Packers made the cut from 90 down to 53, and then to 51, and then back up to 53 again, as they made a couple of
It's
moves.
true.
The two I guess, I should say, the highlighted ones, the ones that really mattered, were they claimed Zane Anderson, a safety, off of the waiver wire, as well as tight end Ben Sims. Zane Anderson, a primarily special teams guy, that would replace Tariq Carpenter, who was waived to make room for him, and then Jonathan Ford was waived to make room for Ben Sims. So I think Justin Jordan, you had said that all of 113-ish snaps were from on special teams from Zane Anderson.
Yes, I reading up on everything last week. Picked that up from just Mosquito over at Acme Packing Company. Played for the Chiefs, I believe was cut by the Bills,
Mm-hmm.
if
Yep.
memory serves, yes. Um, and yeah, has battled a lot of injuries, but tested very well athletically when he was coming out in his draft year in 2021, and still sticking around. Obviously at the expense of Tariq Carpenter, who really, it again, I will go into Jonathan Ford too, but kind of a victim of not really having a position, even though he would never really be relied on that. Ideally, but it was a tough summer for him and didn't really fit into the linebacker mold. I believe Tariq Carpenter got picked up by the Steelers on their practice squad.
He did.
So yeah, found a home pretty quickly, and best of luck to him. But yeah, it's obviously not going to be in Green Bay moving forward.
Same kind of plan probably for him in Pittsburgh. Just be a special teams guy for a team that's in
Yeah,
a similar spot as the Packers.
yeah,
So
very
I
much
guess
so.
it's mostly everyone just swapping around all of their stuff to see what fits, what doesn't, and if they can find any players similar to how the Packers found Russell Douglas and Devondre Campbell those years ago. So,
Hmm.
but then like we said, Jonathan Ford was waived to make room for Ben Sims, the tight end, and then Jonathan Ford was re-signed to the practice squad. Jonathan Ford, one of the players on the D line that we had talked about last week, that we weren't really sure if he was going to make it or if he should make it, just because of the level of talent they had across that defensive line, ends up making the roster, but ultimately not making the 53-man roster once the slew of moves were complete. Makes the practice squad instead.
Yeah, depth piece. I know Matt LaFleur specifically was very um, uh, willing to give up praise to Ford anytime he talked about him. But you kind of just look at the defensive line depth chart and you see two promising rookies on top of a second year starter and Devontae Wyatt, who all are chomping at the bit to get a lot of snaps. Never mind the fact that TJ Slaton's on there, and obviously the linchpin to everything that the Packers do defensively, almost Kenny Clark. Um, yeah, just that's it's tough. It's tough to crack that, and then you have everything else with on the line on the edge, and just you know good summer, but not enough to kind of really take hold and hold the spot. Obviously, going he made the 53, but didn't make it that much longer.
Right, exactly. And there's always one of those moves, it's one way or the other. So
Yeah,
hopefully he can work on his craft on the practice squad and be ready to go should there be any sort of injuries to that D line, which seemingly there always are.
yeah,
Last bit of news regarding the claims and the releases. Ben Sims, not a very highly regarded tight end coming out of college. He attended Baylor. He was drafted or undrafted this year and was with the Vikings. Ends up signing a 3-year two or I'm sorry, yeah, a 3 million Jesus, 3 year, $2 million contract with the Vikings, and then the Packers obviously picked that up with their by claiming him off of waivers. So, Jordan, you have Dame Brugler's beast excerpt about Ben Simmons, do you not?
Yes, I do. Besides going into his background and just what he did at Baylor and everything like that, basically just said overall Sims is a balanced athlete with steady hands, but he isn't a threat after the catch and needs to turn his losses into stalemates as an NFL blocker. That's from Dame Brugler's beast from this year's draft. If memory serves as well, I believe the Packers brought in Ben Sims. I forget who to attribute this, but I saw this after the fact. They brought Ben Sims in for a top 30 draft visit this year,
Mm,
which is very interesting. And I believe there were some contractual things too that um, they had only given like a certain amount of money to the undrafted free agents or whatever it is. I'm some very old right now, but it's basically just saying like they capitalize on a good contract at least in that sense, and then obviously something that they can develop and behind the other two rookie tight ends, bring it to four undrafted free agents that have made the roster this year,
that's
which
that's
again
pretty crazy.
pretty crazy, very crazy, and just shows to the youth and depth of hopefully depth of
Hopefully.
this team and the core that they're starting to build now.
I definitely think it's interesting that they chose to go with another tight end, given that they have obviously Luke Musgrave as a rookie, Josiah DeGuara, who's still developing and is coming into his own, hopefully. But then Tucker Kraft, who's like clearly the like
Number
developmental
two.
tight end that they have, and so to bring in a fourth like tight end and that have that fourth one be a just a project in and of itself, and then have him take up a roster spot was certainly interesting to me. Like I just didn't really know if that roster spot was best used on on Ben Sims. We'll see. And I guess if they brought him in for some looks before as like a the pre-draft workouts, they might see something in him that they want to sort of pull out of him. But I just don't know if four tight ends is really the way to go with it, especially knowing that he's not the most keen blocker and is still having to work on his route running and his pass catching.
Yeah, I mean it's an inspired choice. I believe there was other news that there was a third claim that they made, and they probably made more claims that has been reported.
Hmm.
But I believe his name was Elijah Higgins, who got picked up by Arizona.
Maybe
I should have had this
I
in
can go
front of me
look,
when, yeah.
but
Um, but another tight end, I think he was a wide receiver. Yeah, he got picked up by Arizona.
okay.
Wide receiver that converted to a tight end. Um,
Out of Stanford, looks like.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and yeah, they are clearly targeting that position. Obviously, Tyler Davis being hurt, DeGuara being a tight end, but he's also an H back, but that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, and I believe this is his last year of his contract too. So
Yeah. I
there
guess.
is.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say like there is some need to kind of, I guess, fill the back end of that.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's not veteran experience, which is another topic for another day, probably. But we'll see how this works out with the Packers because, clearly we know Luke Musgrave is going to be tight end one and then kind of falls on another line.
Right. I think it's definitely interesting that I should say interesting. I do remember now that they had four last year. They had Bobby Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, Tyler Davis, and Josiah DeGuara all on the roster. So I guess it's not out of the realm of how the Packers have operated the last few years to bring in Sims to be the fourth guy. I just wish he was a little more refined in his skills as a
Yeah.
fourth tight end because like Tyler Davis as the fourth tight end, Mercedes Lewis as quote unquote the fourth tight end because Mercedes Lewis, great blocking tight end. Like he was in there because he was very good at blocking. Bobby Tunyon, okay at blocking, better while receiving tight end. But then Josiah DeGuara and Tyler Davis developing were both trying to holding their own in their own facets of what they do. I'm not sure Ben Sims fits into either category very well.
Mhm.
At Baylor, he had 31 receptions in both of the last 2 years, totaling 361 and 255 yards both years, and then 6 TDs in 21, 3 TDs in 2022. So Baylor was good these last few years, so worth noting that he was part of like a winning program. But
Mhm.
overall, I think it's just an interesting pickup as to rather than not go like either trade for somebody like Mo Alley Cox if the price wasn't so high, or just any other tight end on the market versus a undrafted rookie to go with your two other rookies and
Yeah.
Josiah DeGuara.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at the whole receiving core. It's
Right.
super young, super not immature, but just inexperienced.
Yeah. I think that's like the only part is like that I was like a little quote like I guess worried about is just that
Mhm.
if you're going to go inexperience, I would rather just have a little bit of experience
Yes.
like in that roster position. Josiah DeGuara is kind of that, but he also kind of isn't. Like he hasn't really
Yeah.
had the full workload that like Bobby Tunyon had, or that Marseilles Lewis had over the course of his career. It's
Yeah.
just you have four pretty new tight ends in that room. It's obviously a young room, and they are going to use tight ends quite often, which is why I wish they had a little more experience, at least from somebody going in.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Excuse me. I said we weren't going to talk about it, and now I'm sitting here thinking about it. We ought to talk about Jonathan Taylor. I know,
Okay.
I know we said we weren't.
JT.
I know we said we weren't, but I'm sitting here and I'm just like, there was smoke, probably no fire, probably an ember if anything, knowing that the Colts wanted Jalen Waddle back from the Dolphins for Jonathan Taylor, which is a
Hmm.
whole nother conversation to have. But one of the reports that came out was that the Packers inquired about Jonathan Taylor to see what his price was or if they could trade for him. I'm guessing it was an absurd price, given the Packers have two firsts next year and a whole lot of young players. I guess regardless of the point, I think it's interesting that it did come out, even though I think somebody reported, I'm not sure who, that the extent
Ryan Wood.
Ryan Wood reported that the extent of them reaching out was a scout talking to like another scout in the Colts organization about like what JT's price would be. So, with all that being said, I think it's peculiar and interesting that the Packers were linked to Jonathan Taylor, given we are entering possibly a different era of running back between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Like AJ Dillon could be gone for this year if he doesn't perform as well as he would hope, as we talked about before on this podcast. Aaron Jones's contract situation is perpetually an issue. I shouldn't say an issue. A thing the Packers have to navigate to make sure they're under the cap every year. So he could be a cap casualty come the end of this NFL year, which I think ends in March, right after the Super Bowl. So if they were trying to trade for Jonathan Taylor and then give him his contract, I'm not sure it's entirely a bad process, but I think it's interesting that that'd be giving him up such a big contract so soon for when they'd have to give Jordan Love his contract as well if he pans out.
Yes. It was strange, much like everything around the Jonathan Taylor saga,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's clear he realizes where they're at. He is, at when healthy, a bona fide, uh, near to elite running back. I mean, he was a rushing leader, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Um, he's wants to be with a winning team, all that stuff, and blah, blah, blah. I, we see this at the NBA all the time of like, teams that you wouldn't necessarily think that would be in the market for a guy that wants out. They, they're holding their chips a little bit and they're ready to kind of pounce on maybe a market inefficiency or whatever. Um, I think that is kind of the play here because of you see all summer how running backs have been treated, where you see top tier guys when healthy, like Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott or whatever, get cut from their teams uh, get picked up by Jets and Patriots respectively for 1 year deals, good money, but not like it's essentially a 1 year flyer. And with the volatility with the running back room beyond this year with the Packers, Brad Kuntz is looking around. He's looking at where he can strike and all that stuff. And it's fair. It's also fair for the Colts to ask for the moon because this is their big trade chip. And when you look at what the Packers have, you have it with picks and young players and all that stuff, that's clean slate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When it's I know it's egregious to ask for Jalen Waddle and all that stuff, but they are in the right to ask for that, even when the Dolphins say no. You know what I mean?
Right.
Part of what
Exactly.
happens. It's not that crazy. This happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just the nature of the situation, the fact that he's clearly not coming back. He wants out. He's done. He's willing to ride out the last year of his contract, and then, you know, maybe he gets traded before the trade deadline. I doubt it, but it's certainly a long gestating situation that all stemmed from him changing agents and obviously his unhappiness with the team's direction prior to all that because the Colts were really a dumpster fire last year, and it was a youth movement was going to happen regardless. So yeah, a very strange situation. I don't. I ultimately think it's a nothing burger, but I don't think it's. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary of a GM looking to strike when he thinks that this is maybe the best play that he can do versus whatever.
Right. Like I definitely think that he's right in wanting to leave that organization. I think the timelines they have are just a little too different for it to really matter and be of substance to Jonathan Taylor. Like I don't think Anthony Richardson's really drawing in Jonathan Taylor just because
No.
it's just they're on different timelines. He's 24, I think, just turned 24. Or no, turns 25 this fall. It looks like, and so he's just not really on that same timeline and whatnot. Like I said, wants to compete
And what's get paid?
and wants to get paid too because
You know.
they
Yeah.
pay running backs that just have to.
Yeah.
And so I always forget what the like stipulations are for the the franchise tag. But like I can see this going ugly so fast. Like if it's already pretty freaking
Yeah,
ugly.
I was gonna say
It's
it's
already
it's
pretty
very
ugly,
ugly.
but it can get like paper bags over heads ugly. If he doesn't play this year, then they like franchise tag him next year. Like I said
Yeah.
I don't know the stipulations of that and how if he's even allowed to be franchise tagged, but it'd be crazy to not trade him and then lose him for nothing. Like I just don't think that's what they do.
I don't think so either. But
So and like whether that's trading with a deadline or like I said, franchise tagging him if they can. But in my brief research of how like who you can offer a franchise tag to or tag somebody as, it's I couldn't find like a they need to be XYZ kind of stuff.
yeah,
Kind of like how like max contracts in the NBA have you need to fit two of these three things. They don't really have that for the franchise
yeah,
tag as I can find it right now. So
yeah,
ultimately, I don't blame the Packers for inquiring, but I also don't blame them for not trading for me either.
yeah,
So
yeah.
should we get to the meat of the pod? We're 20 minutes in and we got some predictions to make. And do you want to introduce the people to what's going on here?
Yes, I shall. So this concept was rattling around my brain. Where a little peek behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz style. Not that I'm the Wizard of Oz. You know. Um, I was planning out like, oh, we're approaching week one. What would be a fun pod? In lieu or not in lieu, but in lockstep with, oh, we're obviously going to do our normal preview, not to tip our hat when we record that next. But I was like, we need a little bit more, just kind of like what's going to, rile up the people. Week one. Football's always here, ladies and gentlemen. You can smell it. You know, sorry. Um, I've had these predictions rattling around my brain, and I've been teasing Numac. I'm like, we're doing a prediction pod. And he's like, I thought we kind of did one. I'm like, no, not my kind of predictions. They're kind of your standard. There's some standard questions in here. There's a little bit of twists and turns with considering the season that we are entering and some of the ties that we may be having with other teams in the NFL, if you catch my drift. But yeah, this is we're doing predictions. We're gonna go through, I hope, every facet of the Green Bay Packers in some general way, and I think you guys will enjoy it.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm going in blind. I have no idea what any of these predictions are, so it's gonna be off the cuff, off the top of my head. Predictions, I guess.
Are you ready?
Let's get into it.
Okay, question one. I wanted to do a very interesting kind of over under stat line, whatever. This is obviously centered on Jordan Love. And I was looking at, hey, Aaron Rodgers' first year as a starter. Let's use that as a baseline for Jordan Love's first year as a starter. Kind of fair, right? So I'm going to say, do you think, do you think Jordan Love passes for 4,000 yards or higher or lower? I explained this very terribly already. In his first year as a starter. And then we'll get through every other stat category Aaron Rodgers did.
Okay. So over under 4,000 yards for Jordan Love.
Yes.
I did the quick maths. 4,000 yards divided by 17 yards or 17 games is around 235 yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
I think under. I think there's gonna be a lot of run game in this offense, and for him to go over 200, which it took Rodgers a lot to do last year, is going to be, I think, tough. I think in his career he'll surpass that quite easily, just not this year.
I will also say under for the same reasons that I think this is a very running based team. Um, I'm also going to keep track of these predictions
Oh, you
so we
got
can
him? Okay.
revisit. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So we can revisit them as we go on throughout the year, or at the end of the year at least.
Yep.
Over under 28 touchdowns
Total or passing?
passing. That's a good question.
Um, I want to look and see like who. Give me a bad quarterback, like someone who played all of last year. Did Desmond Ritter play all last year?
No.
No. Mac Jones.
Bad.
He played all of last year,
Yes, he did.
or most of it, if anything. Mac Jones, New England Patriots quarterback. Because I want to like put it up against some like different stats of like over under 28 because I think that's definitely worth knowing what he did last year. So, and he played 14 games last year and had 14 touchdowns. Yeesh.
He's probably gonna pick the
His
worst one.
his rookie year, he had played a full season and had 22. He has over 28.
Yes, under over 28. I will give my answer while you wait.
Yeah, give yours.
I think it will be slightly under.
Can I push? Can I say 28?
You can?
I'm gonna push.
That's 28.
I think he might get there because I think he's a better quarterback than Mac Jones is.
Yes.
But I think in a similar way that he won't reach 4,000 yards, there's going to be a lot of rushing touchdowns in there versus um, passing touchdowns, which I guess isn't so much in the same vein, I should say. If you're down towards the goal line, like he's been throwing those back shoulder fades quite well, which like
Mhm.
isn't a lot of yards, but counts for at least one touchdown. So
He's on the board.
exactly. So yeah, I think he gets 28.
Plus 28.
Yep.
Over under 13 interceptions.
Under. Under.
Under.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because he didn't show poor decision making in preseason. And like over 13's almost won a game. And I don't think he does that. Sure, he might have a game where he throws like one or two, but I think he throws a significantly more amount of games where he just doesn't throw one at all.
I might actually go push here.
Yeah,
Actually, no, I'm gonna go over. Slightly over.
I should just have like Pro Football Reference of like quarterback stats, so I can like look at all this in real time. Are these all separate questions, or is this one question?
This is one question.
Okay.
Promise. This is the longest
No,
question.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't blowing through these.
Um okay, over under 93.8 passer rating. That is what Aaron Rodgers had as first year starter.
Um, Passer rating. I think 93.
I think by your statistical projections here, I think it would technically be over.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like QBR, right, is what we're going for.
QBR is a separate stat, but I believe I have it here
Oh, I have right here. I have right here. What is the number?
93.8.
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers' QBR in his first year as a starter was 62.9.
It is first year
First year as a starter.
was 62.
62.9, and then I believe it went up to 80 like a
What did
year
you where
later.
did you pull 93 from? Just like
Pro football reference.
was the average of like this year or last year?
No, no, no. His first year as a starter.
Rogers was.
93.8.
Okay. I thought you said
Sorry.
like his like it was like 60 or something. I don't know where
That was his QBR.
Oh, got it. I
They
have
track
right now.
both.
Yeah, I have right now. Um, I'm gonna say under, because 93.8 last year puts him at 12th best, in front of Justin Herbert, and
You don't think
I
he's
don't
better?
think he's Justin Herbert.
Okay,
I'm
I think
taking
I
a
have
more of an
something wrong.
analytical approach to this, so I apologize. But like the like QBR, I couldn't tell you like what a average QBR is.
Wait, no, what number did you take? Sorry, what number were you saying for passer rate? 93.8?
Yeah, is what.
That would have been 12th best last year.
Yeah,
Man, the quarterbacks suck.
yeah.
That doesn't seem like that seems like a
Let me double check that this is the right quarterback rating. Yeah, yeah, quarterback rating, not QBR, because
not QBR.
because ESPN's is QBR.
Yeah,
This on Pro Football Reference, there's a toggle, like a column
yeah.
it just says rate. So
Huh. I feel like that's like a maybe. Yeah. What is? I should have looked
to
this up as
to
well.
to the topping the list was Tua at 105.5. Second is Patrick Mahomes at 105.2. Then Jimmy G at 103, Jalen Hurts at 101, Gino and Joe Burrow at 100.998. So, like, it's there. There's bad quarterbacks at the bottom and good ones at the top.
Yeah, that's yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
I'm just taking it like that. So, yeah, I don't think he's better than Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, or Lamar Jackson this year. I think he could be better than Kirk
Okay.
Cousins, but for sure not better than Justin Herbert this year.
So I'm just gonna recap this because this is the longest one.
Okay.
We are both under 4,000 yards.
Yes.
You have a push on 28 touchdowns. I am under 28 touchdowns. I'm over 13 interceptions. You are under 13 interceptions. And we are both under on a 93.8 passer rating.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I
That
still
is
think
our
could be a good season. Just that's a tough passer rating to really like get up there with.
it just also shows you how good Rodgers was right away. And even if the
Yeah,
team wasn't right away.
93.8. Not as good as Roger, or would have been better than Rogers last year,
Yeah.
for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
question two.
Question two. Very easy one, I think. Which Packer will have the most rushing touchdowns in 2023?
Oh, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones for sure. I
I will
hope
also.
I hope it is.
That is one of my where I wanted this question to go. That we both just go. I hope it is. I hope
Yeah,
it's Aaron Jones.
yeah. I could
Um,
see I could see AJ Dillon having a Jamal Williams type of year where he just gets a bunch of 1 yard rushing touchdowns. Like
I had that thought too.
if they really want to see if he's worth the squeeze, then Why not use him in situations where? Remember last year how mad we get when they just wouldn't run on 4th and 1?
I should mention, are you ready? Because I will have contextual pieces, and this is the first one.
Okay.
Aaron Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns last year. AJ Dillon had 7.
Yeah. I think I think it's a little different because a lot of Aaron Jones's rushing or touchdowns came out like receiving, and it's just like
He had
he,
5.
yeah, it's like he gets utilized different in different ways like that. But I'd imagine they use him as a little more traditional back, given the new look offense they'll have with Jordan Love.
Question number 3. We were on this riding this train last year, and it it didn't end as badly as we thought, but the season just was what it was. Will the Packers have 2 1,000-yard rushers this year?
Oh,
And when it,
sorry, go ahead.
I will say this, not to sway you one way or the other, but I think I already know your answer. There have been 7 times where a team has had 2 1,000-yard rushers in a single season.
Okay.
Last time that happened was the 2019 Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram, who I
Yeah,
forgot was a Baltimore Raven.
he was a Raven for a few years.
He was, and I forgot.
No, absolutely not.
I know.
I don't. I think they have 2 700-yard rushers for sure, but not 1,000. That's a lot of production on AJ Dillon, frankly. Because
AJ Dillon, huh? I'm joking. I'm not saying Jordan Love.
like if Jordan Love is running for 1,000 yards, something has gone wrong.
Something is fair. I will agree with that.
But like
Something has gone wrong.
AJ Dillon, unless he explodes this year, his career high was 2 years ago in 21 with 803 yards. Last year, in a quote unquote down year, he had 770. So, like, take what you will from that. I just don't think there's 200 yards worth of offense from just him that has left the team with Aaron Rodgers being gone. Like, I think
Yeah.
the play calling becomes stylistically different with Rodgers departing, but I think if anything, that leaves Aaron Jones to get more work in the run game rather than AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
But hey, if they want to both go for 1,000, I'm not going to be sad about it. I'll happily be wrong on that one.
Yeah. I would love it. Um, Question 4, I believe.
Yes.
Which Packer will have the most receiving yards?
What a good question.
Mm.
Because you're instinctually wanting to say Christian Watson. But I think we saw most of the preseason that Jordan Love liked throwing to Romeo Dobbs. And then you mix
That's
in.
why I avoided the receptions because I am of the belief, and I think you are as well. Dobbs is going to get a lot of work on at like the intermediate routes, short,
Yeah.
where Christian Watson's the let's go for home runs
Yep.
kind of triples
Yeah.
home runs kind of guy.
Right. Um,
And there's Jaden Reed.
Receiving yards, right? What you asked?
Yes,
Or receiving? Okay.
receiving yards. And there's Aaron Jones. He won't.
I think it is Christian Watson.
Christian Watson.
Yeah. I think he'll get his footing with Jordan Love and in the offense quite easily once the season gets going. And I think he just is too skilled to not be the wide receiver one on this offense. And he's a little less injury prone than Romeo is. Like I could see Romeo missing a game or
I
two.
mean, Romeo's already going into week 1 with a hamstring.
Right. So I think that's just like better to bet on the healthy guy and the clear wide receiver one right now than the guy who might do it. Like I think it's just an option. Hopefully Jaden Reed could help out there, but I don't think he's getting the leading receiving yards this year. Sneaky black horse pick is Luke Musgrave. I know that's like all the primary like reception people, but like with how much they worked him in already, if he can explode onto the scene, he might be able to sneak in as the leading receiving yardage pass catcher. Holy moly!
I will also go with Christian Watson for the same reasons. I think he could have like 1 or 2 or even 3 games where he just produces so many yards where they just get everything works, fires on all cylinders that it can literally just lift him up where he's the leading receiver in terms of just yardage and have like 50 catches or whatever. Like it he has like a Deshaun Jackson type like outcome here where that for me that would be way like I'd be more than happy with that.
Yeah, him
If
being
he
Deshaun Jackson's pretty awesome.
pretty awesome. And even like I feel like a lot of people move on from the fact that Deshaun Jackson like stayed on for a lot longer as like a role playing receiver rather than like that's a star receiving guy because he was literally just like a dynamo.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christian Watson has that appeal, and then obviously you just want to see like can he put it all together and be like one of the best wide receivers ever?
hmm
Joking,
He had
but yeah,
he had 3 games last year in which he had over 100 yards receiving against the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Lions in the last week of the season. Before he kind of made his debut in the season, he had a total of what looks to be about 70, 80-ish yards, and he ended with 600. So,
yeah,
yeah, so he has the skills to be, I think, plus he missed 4 games
yes, he did.
last year and didn't really play a whole lot in the middle, I guess the middle 6 between week 4 and week 8. They had 3 games and he missed 2 of them. Or I guess they had 5 games and he missed 2 of them. Only 3 receptions on 5 targets.
Hmm.
So like that's a whole lot of game of just not being racking up yardage.
Yeah. Okay, both agreement on Christian Watson.
Yeah,
Question 5: which Packer will have the most receiving touchdowns? Christian Watson had 7 to lead the team last year. Alan Lazard had 6. Aaron Jones had the aforementioned 5.
I think I think it's gonna be Dobbs. I think the
Interesting.
I think the work that they did in the offseason has clearly manifested in like them having good chemistry and like just the nice fluid back shoulder throws they've been having, and I think just his love's possible propensity to go to his favorite option, which I do think is going to Romeo Dobbs early on,
Yes.
might make that number a little inflated as compared to Watson getting all the looks. Even though he's definitely deserving all of them. That's just kind of my reasoning for it. For what it's worth, like I've been targeting Romeo Dobbs for this reason, like late in fantasy drafts, just because I think that Christian Watson is going to be the starter to start the season as like the clear wide receiver 1. But if push comes to shove, I really could see it being Romeo Dobbs by the end of the season.
Fair. Fair. Um,
Again, dark horse, Luke Musgrave.
I do feel a little like
Like
he might factor it. I also, I don't know. If there is a rookie receiver that I would think kind of, at least in terms of production,
a Packers rookie receiver or a NFL rookie receiver.
Packers receiver,
Okay,
I'm gonna go Jaden Reed.
for getting the most touchdowns
I think just productions. I don't know if I'm gonna go touchdowns. I think I'm gonna go Watson here again. I think
for
as
most
much as I
touchdowns.
was kind of both, yeah, for most touchdowns.
I think
I went
Musgrave.
into the last category. Sorry, I keep
Nope,
interrupting.
you're good.
I went into the last category going Dobbs, and then I was thinking again. I'm like, Watson just has that big play ability that Dobbs can have that, or he does have that, but it's not in like the turning on the afterburners and beating your guy like in a flash.
Yeah,
That's Christian Watson.
right,
Dobbs, it's like he works you around, and it's a little bit different, methodical kind of thing like that.
right. No, totally get that. I don't think it's a bad pick for sure. It's just like I guess it's a different way of looking at it, and obviously that's what these questions are for, right? Um,
Exactly.
I think Musgrave is going to get a lot of red zone looks, a lot of red zone looks. So He could be a dark horse for this. Like, remember when
That's true.
was it Bobby Tunyon led the team
Bobby
and
Tunney had like 13
right,
in his breakout year.
and that's not. I don't think that even led the team
Devontae.
because Devontae was
Yeah.
had like 20 or something because he was crazy insane. Yeah, Bobby Tunyon had 11 that year, which like I could
Yeah.
see 11 leading this team honestly. So
Yeah. I think it's fair if everybody stays healthy, or
yeah,
mostly.
yeah. All right.
All right. Question 6. Which Packer will lead the team in sacks?
Rashawn Gary. Yeah, yeah, it has to be. If it's
Even
not,
on a pitch count, I think he is going to rake.
yeah, I don't think there's anyone that can even come really close either. Like I don't think Preston's winning enough because of Rashawn Gary's presence in order to like surpass Gary. Like I could see Kenny Clark getting a few more this year if he's actually down to have a good year, but Rashawn Gary was on an insane pace last year. Like if he's back to what he's actually being, which it seems like he might be, I think it's for sure him.
Yes. 6 sacks in 9 games. The sack leader last year was Preston Smith at 8.5, and
Oh
it's a full year.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, Rashawn Gary might hit like 15.
he ought to.
Yeah. That was easy.
Yep.
Another easy one. Question 7. Probably losing count of what what question we're on. Which Packer will have the most interceptions? And you cannot say
Uh,
Jordan Love. I was waiting for that wrinkle.
um, I feel like it's too easy to just say the stars. Like I think it's Jair.
Jair led the team with 5 last year.
Right. I think he does it again this year because no one at safety is doing it. Nobody
No,
nobody at linebacker is doing it,
no.
and I just think Jair is gonna have more than Razul and Eric Stokes when he comes back. You know what I mean? Like I just don't really think that's really an option. So yeah, Jair.
Fair. I will also go Jair. I think this is going to be a big year from him.
Hoping so. Hopefully Joe Barry got his
I feel
head out
I
of his
feel
rear.
very a lot. I was very down on Jair after last year, and I've come around, and I think the good vibes. Good
That's
vibes.
an interesting sentence to say. After last year, you were
Yes.
down on Jair,
Down on Jair, who
and
was
then and
a
then and then and then
all pro.
no football happened
Yeah.
for 8 months,
I think you're
and
getting
not
to the core of the issue here. I just went football back, and I like watching Jair Alexander play.
fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah. Question 8. This is a fun one. Will the Packers have a special teams touchdown this year?
Yes.
I will say this. I have a meaty context here.
Okay.
Before Keyshawn Nixon's kick return touchdown last year versus the Vikings,
I know.
the last time the Packers had a kick return go for a touchdown was Randall Cobb on opening night in 2011.
I know.
Furthermore,
I know.
furthermore,
I know.
furthermore, the last time the Packers have had a punt return for a touchdown was on December 28th, 2014 in a 30-20 win against the Lions. Can you guess the player that
Oh
took home
God.
that 55-yard punt return touchdown?
2014.
I believe we even mentioned him last week.
2014.
2014. The good year until it wasn't.
Um, it's not Jordy Nelson. He was too good returning kicks at this point.
Punt. Remember,
Punts,
punt too.
punts.
A little bit different.
Too good returning punts at this point. Um, not him. Not it's not Cobb. Oh, I feel like I know this answer, and you're gonna say the receiver, and it's gonna piss me off. Who played slot for them in the middle of the?
It would have been Cobb,
They would have been Cobb, huh?
maybe.
I don't know.
You're looking in the wrong room.
I'm looking in the wrong. Looking at a DB.
Hmm.
Um, my brain went to Mike McKenzie.
Mike McKenzie. About 10
Going
years
back,
too late.
right? I'm gonna give myself like 10 more seconds. It's not Kevin King. No, he wasn't
No,
drafted yet. He's not even close
no.
to being drafted yet. Um, Josh Jones isn't drafted yet either. I give up.
Micah Hyde.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I was like, yeah, yeah. Yes, they have a special teams touchdown this year. I think Keyshawn Nixon's too good to not have it happen, but also I think they just play a worse caliber of team this year, and hopefully that translates to some opportunities for that to happen.
I will also go yes. Uh, because if Keyshawn Nixon's not returning kicks and punts, or at least just one, oh, just give me one.
Yep.
It will be uh, an assault on the eyes and ears of Packer fans around. He is clearly a talent.
Yeah.
And I know they're trying to make him work at slot cornerback and all that stuff, but he could change a game with just catching a ball in the touchdown and then running
Right.
to the other touchdown.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Question 9, I believe.
Yep.
My favorite question. Will Anders Carlson make 75% of his field goals this year? Over under.
Wow.
So I'm looking at three-fourths.
I I can do the math.
We're flipping
So hold on. Of his field goal attempts.
field goals. I don't care about extra points.
Okay. Um.
And nor should you, Packer fan.
Um. Golly. I'm saying under.
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 Wow.
Under.
Not anticipating that answer.
Under. I just am too worried. The end of a practice before the Seahawks game where
No.
they all cheered
They
around
got to
him.
you, Numac. They got to you.
I think he'll be a decent NFL kicker. I think he'll have some problems this year, given the fact that they also have a new holder and all of the other extenuating circumstances. I don't think he gets to 75%.
Mm,
I'm sorry.
I'm obviously going over.
Obviously.
And I feel like it's going to be a little bit comfortably over.
You think it's going to be comfortably over.
I think if he hits 78% of his kicks,
That's
I'm
not
sorry,
comfortably.
field goals. I think that's comfortably.
Oh, all right.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Question 10. This is a little bit more general. Who will we think will be the breakout player for the Packers this season?
The breakout player.
So that you can take this in any direction.
Yeah.
Because I have an answer.
Um, I want it to be Devontae Wyatt.
Mm,
I want him to be Kenny Clark 2.0 right away. I don't know if that's in the cards. I'm trying to think of someone like reasonable that isn't already like set to break out. Like Christian Watson, I think, is a candidate here because you could set up Christian Watson and if he goes for 1,215 touchdowns. Certainly a breakout season for him. Same thing with Jordan Love. If he throws for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns, that's certainly busting onto the scene.
there are a lot of candidates
Oh
with this
man,
team.
I guess that's what happens when you go to a young team, huh?
Hmm.
Um, I guess who is most likely to have a really good year? And I think that all comes back around to I think Christian Watson. Like I think a breakout year is easier for him to achieve than it is easier for Jordan Love or Devontae Wyatt to achieve. Like I think there's dark horse candidates. Did I say black horse earlier? I did.
You did. I did
That
not want to
that
correct
that
you.
that's wrong. Dark horse candidates.
Just think of the Katy Perry song.
That's right. In a bunch of players between Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Brendan Cox Jr., and JJ Enigbare. Like I think all four of those players have potential to really, really make an impact in this special way this year. But when I think of like most likely to do that, I think it's Christian Watson.
Fair. There's different categories, especially again, the Packers are ripe with many
Yep,
breakout potential,
exactly.
but I like to tier it in different uh types of breakout guys. Because Jordan Love, the guys that are this is their first big year of starters. Obviously, Jordan Love is the quintessential example of this. Devontae Wyatt's a good shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Watson, especially given how his rookie year was, certainly. I mean, you could obviously say the same for Romeo Dobbs, but different circumstances. There's a lot of different pieces on here, and I'm gonna make this plea before I give my answer. I've seen breakout candidates assigned to rookies like drafted high this year.
Okay.
Like I saw Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
This is on the Twitter sphere or X sphere.
Yep.
Um, pegged as a breakout candidate. He was a first round pick.
I see what you're saying. I think that like you are allowed to be a breakout player depending
It's
on like
true.
where you went. Like Jamar Chase was never a breakout like player candidate because he was like
No.
fifth overall. Like he
Yeah,
was
he was
just expected to be good, which he is. But like Jordan Addison was what the fourth or fifth receiver off the board,
give or
something
take,
like
yeah.
that. Maybe second because it was
Johnson. Quentin Johnson, I think.
I forget what order they went, but it was like JSN, um,
Yes. Yeah.
Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, all in that mix, right? And I think that like the 20s is definitely a breakout candidate spot to be picked. Like you just don't know sometimes with receivers picked at that point. So I see your gripe. I'll let you have it. I just see the point.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My player will be Zach Tom.
That's an interesting like route that I didn't really look at. Like I just don't think of like offensive linemen as like breakout candidate people because it's harder. One, it's harder to recognize, and two, it's not as flashy.
Side note, that is part of why I wanted to make this general question because I needed to look at like, okay, we have some young offensive linemen on this team, and I want them to be good. How you can't put like over under 6.5 pancakes for Zach Tom. You know what I mean? Like the old Madden stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I also just think Zach Tom is the. It's not. I think we look at him this year as like the fifth starter.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not all of us. I shouldn't put the royal we on this.
No, you can
Um,
put the royal we on that. I
but
think for sure. Like
I th-
I think the Packers, I think Packers fandom expects him to be the fifth starter.
I think he's going to end up being a lot more than that very soon.
Fair enough. Fair
Very
enough.
soon. This is a very talk of the tundra centric question, and I'm excited for this.
Question 11, right?
Question 11. Question 11. Which Packer will finish with the most cheeses this season?
What a question. I'm going to go on a limb and say it's going to be a repeat of last year in Aaron Jones. I think he's still the one of the best players on the team and is the least susceptible to variance games. Like Jair didn't get a lot of cheeses
Yes.
last year because there was times where he was just getting smoked, and that happens at times when you go against all-star wide receivers. There's not a whole lot of times when Aaron Jones is like getting stuffed or isn't making an impact on offense. So I think he repeats as cheese master.
Cheese mister. Yes, I agree with everything you said. Aaron Jones is the engine. We all have known this for a while. Even the MVP uh, of a couple years, but now said as much that Aaron Jones is what makes things run with this team. And you have a young quarterback, you have a young offense, you have a young team, and overall, Aaron Jones is a leader, um, trust your leader to get to where you want to go. It's as simple as that. They don't have. He's incredibly talented. He's incredibly versatile. It's, it's just a matter of. It's enough singing about his praises just because he is such a. Uh, uh, I don't know what to, an anchor to what the Packers do.
Right.
That like I think when now with everything that has happened over the last however many months, years, really, to kind of go in all in on this identity and realize Aaron Jones is going to be, at least for this season, who knows what the future may bring and all that stuff, but he's going to be the most important Packer to actual success this year. Just trust it, run it, touch, score it,
Right.
pop it,
I agree. Pop it.
pop it.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think you follow your leader this season, and I think he'll be ahead of the pack, pun intended, on that one.
Okay, we're starting to get out of the stack categories.
Okay.
Kind of thinking broad sweeping questions. We have dabbled this with guests. We have dabbled this with many pods over the summer. It is finally time to answer the question. Question 12 on my questionnaire. Who wins the NFC North this year?
Oh man, I feel like I'm allowed to be a homer and say the Packers.
You are
I
allowed.
I am allowed to do that. I have free will. I'm just trying to think of like how bold do I want to go? Do I really want to put that out in the universe? Of course I do. But my desire to be right and my desire for happiness are two different ends of the scale. Um,
It's also a reflection of where you stand, even with all the optimism of going into
right,
the NFL season now. You also know where the Packers stand going into it.
right. I'm just more optimistic about it because they have such an easy schedule. Like that's part of like one of the benefits of having a down year last year coming into this new season with Jordan Love is that their schedule's so easy. Like I only see maybe four like scheduled losses. And even that is not bad. Kansas City, New York, the Giants. I don't want to say it's scheduled, but they're a good team. Like they're talented. We lost to them last year, so and then both Minnesota games, or I guess one of Minnesota and one of Detroit are like four losses. That's 13 wins, and I think that's really too optimistic, reasonably to predict for the Packers this year. I think they're above 500. I just don't know if like 10-7 wins the division, considering that even though we're expecting regression from the Vikings, that they're still the division champion. They're still the reigning
Yeah.
champion. So I guess screw it, Packers.
I like it's an inspired choice.
I'm probably gonna be wrong. I'm not gonna be
It's
sad if I'm
fine.
wrong.
This is what it's about. And what if you're right?
I'll be very happy if I'm right.
Exactly. We're
Very
gonna have a
happy.
lot more to talk about than just predicting that the Packers win the division.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going a different direction.
Understandably.
I believe the Detroit Lions, after 30 years, finally win a division title.
Hopefully Malcolm's listening.
Yes,
Malcolm, this one's for you,
for his
dog.
sake.
So
Um,
so I guess do you think the Vikings miss the playoffs, or do you think they're like a wild card team?
I think a wild card team.
Got it. You just think that Detroit makes that jump.
I think so. I think so.
Do you have a record prediction for them?
No,
Perfect.
I. w-
No,
I should have.
obviously it's your uh, Packers prediction uh, schedule, and I threw it at you. But I was just curious if you had like dabbled in that thought at all.
I should have.
It's not a problem.
Next question.
Yep.
Question 13, I believe. Will the Packers make the playoffs this year?
Yes, because I said they win the division.
Yeah.
I think if
ES
they if they don't win the division, they still sneak in as a wild card team. Like I think 9-8 because the NFC is dog water this year.
Yeah.
I think they can sneak into like the seventh spot as a 9-8 team.
Yes. For the record, ESPN Analytics had a piece out today. They ran through 285 simulations of however their algorithm works with uh, some system. Um, they predicted 8-9 for the Packers this year.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, but it also just speaks to they're an unknown quantity. So much of their, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like we're very optimistic about what we have seen and what
Right. They are
where it
so
could
young.
go.
Like it makes sense that they're so.
Yes.
I guess that the simulation is so. I guess meh on them, but like I just look at this team and this schedule and I just don't know where 9 losses come from, dude. I really don't because
I'd be surprised.
right, like it's not to expect. It's not that I expect a winning season. It's just that like anything more than like 9-10 losses means that like nothing has worked out. Like outside of even Jordan Love, like the receivers didn't take a step. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon might have fallen off. The defense is clearly not as good as we've been hoping for the last couple years. Like it's tough because like we just don't play any we just don't play a tough schedule. Like
Mhm.
the AFC West isn't going to be scary. It's just the Chiefs and the Chargers, and we play the Chargers at home in November, at Vegas, at Denver in back-to-back weeks. But there's a bye in there. It looks like. Um, I just I just don't know because then you face the Steelers who are in the same position. They're fine. We'll see how they are this year. We face the Baker Mayfield led or Kyle Trask led Buccaneers at the end of the season at home. We play the Panthers this year, dude. Like play the Falcons and the Saints. Like it's just I just don't see so many losses there. But that's a tangent.
I also believe the Packers make the playoffs this year. I think playoff teams come out of the North.
3,
Yes, Lions, Vikings, Packers. Look at the other division that would have are
the
the
East.
East, and I think the Giants will not be as good.
So let's see. Do you have like a full playoff prediction coming up, or can we veer for a second?
We can veer.
So there's 7 spots, and by your prediction, there's now 4 left.
Hmm.
No,
Four.
4. Yeah, because So you're saying a division winner
So
and
it's the
two wild
division
cards.
the division winners and
Yep.
one more wild card team.
So
I am essentially saying I think the Packers take the Giants spot.
of the 4 spots, you're saying one of the Cowboys, the Giants, the Eagles, the Seahawks, and Niners. One of them is missing it, and you think it's the Giants, right? Okay,
Oh yeah.
that's not as egregious as I thought it would be. Because
No, I'm talking.
I
I think the
forgot the NFC
Packers.
South is dog water again.
Yeah, I think if the Packers win or go to the playoffs, I think they're getting in by the
Skin of the teeth.
hair. Yes, I was going to say hair of their teeth.
Um,
They got
I, I,
mustaches.
I I just think that I think I'm thinking your way, but for the East. I think 3 teams out of the NFC East make it again, and I think if anything, the Packers might take one of the NFC West team spots. I'm curious as to the Seahawks keep doing what they're doing with Geno. Like I love Geno. Geno's a good story. He really is.
Jake Bobo.
Yeah, Jake Bobo, all of them. But I think things could go like pretty poorly in San Francisco if the quarterback
Yes,
situation doesn't work out.
and Nick Bosa's not showing up.
Still,
as of recording, going
interesting.
into week one.
But the point being is that there's a lot of variance in the Niners team. I think they have a really good team. They are a fringe contender in
They also
this.
have the two worst teams in the NFC and possibly the NFL in that
Exactly.
division.
Right. Like it's
Whereas the East and the North are very similar. Where I think all four of those teams in each division are just going to beat up each other.
yes. Like this I think the South too is just like they're all pretty bad and they're just gonna
They're
all beat up on each other until one wins out and then the other ones have good draft picks.
I think at the time of recording our division pods, which you can go back and listen to, um, I felt like that was more like, I don't really know where it's going to come from. It's going to be the Saints. It should be the Saints at least.
Yeah. I
It
think
should be.
I've seen bold predictions that the Panthers make it. I'm not really sure.
If there's a team that's bold, I think it's Atlanta, but there's still things about Atlanta that I don't trust at all.
Is it the quarterback?
Is it the tight end?
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
there's just a lot of stuff.
Okay. I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Over under question 13
I think 14.
14. Over under, the Packers will have 2.5 Pro Bowlers.
Over.
Last year.
Yeah. Over.
Okay.
2.5. I think they have one of probably Jair, probably, hopefully Kenny Clark. And if they're making the playoffs, like if we're being consistent in our
If I was gonna say
if
if
we're being
you're
consistent,
picking,
then it's somebody on offense,
yeah,
either Aaron Jones, Jordan Love, or Christian Watson, or whoever shines. Frankly, so yeah, over.
I will say Jair Alexander was the only Packer to be selected to the Pro Bowl last year before players started jumping in.
Yeah, but they were pretty bad.
They were very bad.
Like Bakhtiari can make it again this year.
Mhm.
If Tom shines at right tackle, he can make it.
Jenkins.
Jenkins, like if they're good, which I'm predicting they're going to be, then they should have more than three
I think
or
Jair
more than
Alexander.
two.
I think the locks for me are Jair Alexander and Aaron Jones, and that wild card third guy, probably on the offensive line. Maybe Rashawn Gary. Maybe an improved season from Kenny Clark.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think they
Rashawn Gary's at
just
one too. Obviously, we forgot about him. Like if
yes.
yeah, he's for sure three then.
I'm also going over.
Aaron Jones is hard for Pro Bowl because there's so many good running backs. Like off the top of my head, like Bijan might get in because he's a rookie. Saquon, Nick Chubb. Why am I blanking? Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison. Like all of them are darlings this year coming into their role. Aaron Jones has have been given his flowers. I don't know if he has to have a really special season for him to be, I think, a Pro Bowler, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah. Fair. It's fair. Question 15. Predict if the Packers will have any major award winners this season. If so, who? So I'm talking about MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, any of the Rookie of the Years, both offensive, defensive. I believe I
um
might be missing a couple too.
um
Coach of the Year?
I think if again, this is all under the caveat the Packers are good. If the Packers are good, I think LaFleur gets Coach of the Year, and I'm going to give Rashawn Gary either comeback or Defensive Player of the Year.
I think
Maybe
Rashawn
both.
Gary. Yeah. I think Rashawn Gary, Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'll go. I do think, and I've already seen some bubbling sentiment towards this as well. I think LaFleur will be talked about if they overachieve,
Yeah.
quote unquote. Um, it's going to be a lot of praise for Matt LaFleur. And then if they lose to the 49ers 12-9 at Lambeau in the playoffs, they're going to be like, why can't he do the big one?
Right.
That kind of thing. But
Exactly.
yeah, Sean Gary for Comeback Player of the Year, I think Football is just naturally. There's any sport that has should have a comeback player of the year award. It's football because of just how
It's just how the
brutal it
narratives
is.
work and how
Yeah,
storytelling. How story driven it is. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's Rashawn Gary if he's exactly who he is. Are
Ready?
you ready?
Yes, sir.
Now we get to the what? These are the questions that have been rattling around my brain
Okay.
for a long time.
Okay.
Long. What question? 16?
I think it's 15, but I've lost count.
Yes, 16. Will Aaron Rodgers snaps with the Jets this year be 65% or higher?
Higher,
Yep.
higher. He
I will
hasn't
also
missed.
say
He
higher.
hasn't missed a whole lot of games in his past 3 years,
He also
barring.
doesn't have the same offensive line that the Green Bay Packers built around him.
Yeah, yeah. That offensive line is pretty not good, from what I know. So hope I'm knocking on wood all over the place that it's higher,
Yep.
but higher.
I will also say
I can't.
higher.
I can't say lower for my mental health.
Yeah. The guy played with a broken thumb last year and didn't want to sit for Jordan Love, knowing that the era was the dawn was ending. A
Right.
new dawn was beginning. The dusk, whatever.
Go ahead.
Ruin the analogy.
Yep.
Next question, because it pairs beautifully with what I've already asked. Who will have a higher draft pick this year? The Jets or the Packers?
The Packers. The Packers for sure.
You took this in a literal way, as in you think it's like higher, like to 32?
No, like
You think it's
I think
higher up?
I when it comes to higher draft pick, one being the highest draft pick,
Okay.
the Packers have a higher draft pick, have a better draft pick than the Jets.
You think so? Okay. You
What?
under the guise of you think the Packers will win the division, going the
Yes.
playoffs.
Yes.
Do you think the Jets are just going to be really good this year?
Yes. Regretfully. But yes.
So you're saying they win the AFC East?
I say they either win the AFC East or at the top of the division, it's a dogfight for first.
Yeah.
Like the Bills were like 12-5 or something last year, and like I don't think they're going to cannibalize each other enough to make the rest of their schedule that bad. Because if you think about it, the Jets are in the same boat that the Packers are in that they have a pretty darn easy schedule this year. I really wish my
But
internet
they
would
they have a
load.
really hard start. Hard
Right,
beginning.
but they have the Bills at home. I hate to say this, Rodgers isn't losing in Dallas. He's just not. That's their second game. And then home against the Patriots and the Chiefs. They start four of their first 4 games. 3 of them are at home. Then they go Broncos in Denver, home against Philly, away against the Giants, which is home.
Yeah.
The Chargers in New York, and then
Jeez.
in Vegas, and then in Buffalo, home against the Dolphins, home against the Falcons, home against the Texans, and then they finish their season at Miami, home against the Commanders, at Cleveland, at New England. Like they just don't have a hard schedule.
Yeah, even the teams that they are on paper in terms of like opponent, that is that is egregious.
Yeah, their defense is going to be good. I think their entire season rides on whether or not Rodgers can stay healthy behind the line. But they should be darn good.
You changed my answer because I really wanted to go in on
Because like
they're not going to be that great.
right, and I understand like that's kind of the sentiment is that why should we believe in the team that we don't know anything about yet? But they won. I wish there was an easy way to see it. Seven game
Seven.
with Zach Wilson as their quarterbacks. Like
Mike White.
and Mike White. Like that's I just don't I don't foresee this team having such struggles with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And like all of their hard games are at home.
Yeah.
Bills at home, obviously. Chiefs at home. Eagles at home. Chargers at home. And then their last tough game is against the Bills. Like They play all of their tough battles at home except for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So like I just that advantage with a I'd assume rejuvenated fan base is going to be a big plus for them. As much as it pains my heart.
I will say the Green Bay Packers will have the higher draft pick.
Okay, got it.
I was so ready, guns a blazing. Anyway, now we're fishing. We're in the decent. Let's talk general NFL.
Okay.
Who do you think comes out of the NFC this year?
Um, man, that's a really good question. I think the Eagles do again. I think that offense is just so talented that it's just gonna be so hard for them not to. Like I could see it being the Niners if everything comes together and everything finally falls into place for them. But I think it's in any case it's a two horse race between the Eagles and the Niners. I don't think any other team comes out of the NFC.
I do.
You do.
Hmm.
Don't say who I think you're gonna say. No, I think you and I have different opinions of who's coming out.
Yes.
Or, I'm sorry. I think you and I have different opinions about who you're going to
On the
say.
team, yes.
Yeah.
Fly that 12th man flag.
You think so.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
hate the pick. That's not who I thought you were going to say.
Who do you think
I
I was
thought you were
just
going to say the Cowboys.
No, 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 no. I think they're no, no. I watched Mike McCarthy coach.
Listen, I do it. I did as well. I just think like they did some of the right things this offseason. And I just that was like the only other like edge contender that I thought you were going to say. I think you saying the Seahawks surprised me a lot.
If everything comes together, they have the talent offensively. They have two all-pro wide receivers. Maybe not all-pro. I wouldn't say Lockett is. DK Metcalf is. Kenneth Walker is really good. Injuries got to him by the end of the last year, but that was a rookie.
Hmm.
Um, their offensive line is much improved by what it was at the end of the Russell Wilson era. Um, Defense, I mean, that's always been kind of their calling card, even when things that were going a little astray.
Right.
I think the Eagles are going to be a little bit more. They did a lot of interesting things. I think they did a lot of things to improve their team for the long term. I don't necessarily think it's really hard to repeat.
It is.
It's really hard. Not even just repeat, just coming out of the same conference 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I think that
I just think there's so
that
much
might not
talent.
apply to a team in the AFC
Yeah.
because of who they have at quarterback, but like,
Well, that's the thing with the Eagles too is that they have that same level of talent in like Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes being elite all pro quarterbacks, but the Eagles have talent throughout. Like
I don't
Mahomes,
think their defense is as good though.
I don't think it is either, but they have such an elite offense that it's going to be hard for teams to keep up with them. Like it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
And I think like Mahomes is a rising tide of lifting all ships. Like he's lifting Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Rasheed
Sky Moore.
Rice, and then
Yeah,
Travis Kelsey being obviously the big guy, and then same thing with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. Like besides Kelsey, they don't have elite talent on that offensive side. Mahomes helps make them very, very good. The flip side of that coin is that Jalen Hurts is really good at being a quarterback. Patrick
yes.
Mahomes still the best quarterback in the NFL. Jalen Hurts in that next tier, but the talent around Jalen Hurts is so freaking good. Like between Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, and Devonta Smith, and now they have DeAndre Swift and
Rashad
Kenneth
Penny.
Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell. Like they just have options at running back. They can just go with
The
the hot
lines all
hand.
together too. That's the other thing.
Exactly. Like I just think there's so much cohesion on that offensive side that they can't help but not score enough points to win them games.
It's all fair. I think both teams meet each other in the conference championship,
Yep, I
regardless.
think it's a repeat or it's a rematch of last year.
Was it a
Yes.
rematch?
Yep. Because
No, it's San Francisco.
that's what I'm saying.
Wait, what?
I, that,
No,
that's
no, no.
that, that, uh, I'm saying
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
NFC Championship is a rematch.
I'm saying Seahawks, Eagles.
Correct.
Yeah, just make that clear for our top listeners. Top thoughts. Um, Same question,
For the
different
AFC.
conference. Who's coming out of the AFC?
Um, for the same reason of why you said you don't think it's gonna be Philly, I don't think it's Kansas City again. I think Kansas City got. I don't want to say like great.
Also, they're all pro defensive tackle. Chris Jones is in a contract holdout, and
Yep.
unless if something changed as recorded, he
No.
might not play week one.
Yeah. He. Nothing has changed that way. Um. I'm just like I think it's so hard to do that, especially when because like the reason I picked the Eagles out of the NFC again is because the talent gap between the Eagles and the rest of the conference is significant. When it comes,
Really?
I yeah, I think the
Okay.
Eagles are like if everything goes sort of chalk, the
They're one
Eagles
A.
yeah they're one in
Yeah.
in the NFC, and then there's everybody else. Like they're I just don't think like the Niners are close um at their
No.
peak. I just can't get there with them. Even though I think they're good, I think like I said, I think it's gonna be a Niners. There's a fruit fly flying by me. Um, I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be Eagles Niners in the NFC Championship game again. I just think it's the Eagles just have so much more talent than the Niners do. With that being said, I think the AFC is a much harder question to answer because the top that like 10-7 might not get you in the playoffs in this conference. Between
No.
the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Bengals, the AFC South winner, and then
Jaguars with a bullet.
yep, sorry, the Jaguars.
Hmm.
I was thinking the NFC South. That's why it was all wrong. But then
Hmm.
the Chargers and the Chiefs. That's 8 teams, and all of them I think are going to be pretty good when it comes to their record. Um, I don't think 10-7 gets you in. I don't. I think you're going to have to win 11 to 14 games to get into the playoffs.
And then it's a different season altogether.
Then it's a different
You're
season
playing against an
altogether.
elite of the elite.
Right. I think like the NFL this year is so top heavy with the AFC. Like it's just I think it's best team. I think I'm just going to say the Chiefs to make it easier on my argument right now because they're the reigning champion. They have to be. It's the Chiefs, the Eagles, and then the rest of those 7 teams outside of like the Niners maybe sneaking in above like the Chargers or something. Like it's just hard. It really is picking a team to come out of this conference. Um, I want to say the Bills because I want the Bills to win. I really do. I want to say the Bengals because I want the Bengals to win. Um, I think the Cincinnati Bengals get back to the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
And no, I will not be elaborating further because there's so much to talk about with this conference that
Yeah,
we'd be here for hours.
and your answer is not wrong. Any answer of the top teams
Yeah,
is not wrong. I did think you were gonna about to say Jets, which I went like this a little bit. I was like, oh, here we
I
go.
no, I think
But it's not inconceivable.
oh, it's absolutely not inconceivable. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The only reason it's like I shouldn't say the only reason. One of the reasons I didn't pick them is purely fandom. Like I want the Bengals to win. I want the Bills to
Also,
win.
I don't know if their coaching staff has it.
I
To,
also have seen Rodgers in the playoffs the last decade is like a big part of like me going walking over to Potawatomi and putting a bet on them as the future Super Bowl winner. Like I just think it as a former as a Packers fan with formerly having Aaron Rodgers,
yeah,
believing in him to get the job done after all these years is a fool's errand in my brain.
it's fair.
Who's your pick?
You make valid points. This is a really hard division. And as much as like we look at the Chiefs as like this infallible being, especially by the when they won last year, in a really hard game. Um, there's a lot of things that like they're not perfect.
Yep.
They're not perfect.
Nope.
If they don't have Chris Jones, even if he plays half a season, whatever goes on with that contract negotiation, it's
Hmm.
serious enough that he's willing to miss football games.
Yeah.
So it's not a given that he's whatever's going on, he's going to be at peak performance.
Hmm.
But Mahomes is the ultimate X factor and mitigating factor in any discussion that we have. Bengals, it's a tough one. Joe Burrow's health is going to be on the minds of everybody, given just how the preseason was.
Yep.
Ravens are fine. They'll be better.
I think they're going to be better than people think. I think
Yes.
Lamar actually having people to throw to is going to be huge.
Yes, 100%.
Huge.
And a different offensive coordinator. They ran whatever offense that you want to call it, that it was run into the ground, but quite
Literally.
literally.
Yeah.
I'm going but Bills.
I'd be happy with that. Like, I want a lot of players on that team to win a ring.
I think too they've had tough breaks and stuff like that.
So many. So many.
And but like it
I will say, bold prediction. If the Bills don't go to the Super Bowl, Stephon Diggs is gone. Gone.
I don't think I think that's 100%.
I think he's been pretty fed up with the state of things in that organization the last few years in general, and
Hmm.
that was evidenced by the way he. I don't want to say acted because that makes it sound childish, but the way he carried himself with the team this offseason,
Yeah.
I think if they don't make the Super Bowl, he's asking for a trade without a
Yeah.
doubt. He's got potentially 1 year left on his deal after this year, so he got next year under contract, and the Bills have an out with 22 million dead cap to go with it. Otherwise, he's on the books for, including this year, 5 more years.
Mm.
So that's just a little bold prediction for you.
So you have Eagles Bengals. Who wins that
Yes,
Super Bowl?
uh, I think, man, that'd be a really good Super Bowl. That'd be a really
Hmm.
good Super Bowl. Two teams that have the past two losers.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a good Super Bowl. Um, I think the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl. They were so close last year. The Bengals were also close, but not. I don't think they were as close. If that makes
They weren't
sense.
as the Eagles were playing to how good they were. Their defense was not as good as they were throughout in one game versus the whole season. The
Yeah,
Bengals were in a dogfight with the Rams
with
that
the
game.
Rams.
It was a different kind of thrilling game.
Yeah, I think it's just without a penalty last year, the Eagles won that football game. Like that just it's one mistake that cost them the game. It
Mhm.
wasn't like they played poorly. I guess Jalen Hurts' fumble was a big turning point in that game as well.
Yes.
But I just think to look at the Super Bowl and like 23-20 is a damn close game. The Rams took the lead with a minute left to go in the fourth quarter. Like I think it's interesting. I'm trying to see Joe Burrow had only one touchdown and 22 completions. So, no interceptions, just a tough game because the Rams defense was very good.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's the Eagles.
I'm going Bills over the Seahawks.
Bills over the Seahawks. How about that?
Buffalo fine.
They
How
finally
about
circled their
that?
way again.
They finally do it in 5 tries.
Alrighty. Any more? Or was that the last question?
That was the last question. That was my questionnaire.
Wow. Well, thank you for putting that together. I enjoyed going in blind to all of it.
No problem.
With that being said, folks, this sign off is officially the end of the off season. No more off season pods from us. We are now getting into in season pods. Coming at you in your podcast feeds on Friday is going to be the Bears preview for week one. talking about same thing we did last year. Look into the game, big matchups. Since it's week one, we'll look at sort of what the Bears did last year, or not last year, this offseason and last year, I suppose, as to how this will all shake out. And that'll be the cadence for the rest of the year. Preview of the matchup coming up, recap of the game coming into your feeds either Sunday night or Monday morning, then preview for the next game after that. So, 2 times a week you'll be hearing from us the rest of the year until January. So, with all that being said, couple of plugs before we sign off. Head over to gspn.info to get all things Eurostep Podcast Network. As I pull up the pods for the umpteenth time, very late into the recording, the Eurostep boys, Ty and Rohan, recorded last Thursday about the Bucks adding Ty Washington Jr. To a two-way as a backup point guard. Very big development for them, as I think Mr. Ty Windish is a very big Ty Washington fan. So go check out that and listen to that. Cruising for a Bruising. The Brewers just wrapped up a 3-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies and beat 2 out of 3 from them. Unfortunately, lost tonight to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Monday, they lost, obviously, to the Pirates. But go check out Cruising for Bruising as Andrew Snyder and Adam McGee go the last month of the regular season into the playoff push after losing 2 of 3 to the Cubs and taking 2 of 3 from the Phillies. So it'll be a battle all the way down to game 162. So, and then last but certainly not least is make time for this. Looks like there is a new pod that was released on Friday titled The Chaotic and Sexy Passages and What Ratings Controversy That Surrounds Ira Sachs' Film Says About U.S. Censorship. So, with all that being said, Jordan, do you have anything else?
No. I'm spent.
You're spent. Well,
Spent.
well, thank you for putting all that together. Thank you, listener, for listening. And we wow, let's rewind.
Wait.
We cannot wait to cover this season. It's going to be great. As you heard our predictions, I'm expecting a good season, but also expecting just to have fun. So, all right, folks, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.